Welcome to the Inspire to Invest podcast, where we're sharing stories from real estate investors and how investing has changed their lives. This episode of the Inspire to Invest podcast has been brought to you by WealthShare. Hey everybody, welcome to Inspire to Invest. I have Meghan Hubner here with me today from Whistler, British Columbia. She's an independent consultant with more than a decade of experience running multi-million territories in the medical sales industry. But in 2019, she decided to walk away from corporate life and launch Hubner Consulting. So she is primarily working with small business owners and also real estate investors to help them understand that their business is, in fact, a business. And she likes to focus on and create order for the four main areas of their business. So accounting, finance, sales, marketing, human resources, as well as operations. So we look forward to your wisdom today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Great. So I know in the bio, we kind of talked about, where you were at before, but maybe you can shed a little bit of light on how life used to be like before you started your own business.
Absolutely. So yeah, I spent over 12 years in the medical field. Loved my career, absolutely loved it until I fell out of love with it. And I all of a sudden just started losing the passion for the numbers on the sales sheet. And I thought, okay, there's got to be something else going on out there. There's got to be entrepreneurship. What does this look like? And so I started affiliate marketing actually. And I just took an opportunity, and that opportunity taught me that there was opportunity out there. And it was the biggest leap of faith that I could have done. And so I actually ended up manifesting like this goal of leaving corporate world at a specific date. And what would that look like? And how do you work online? And what does it look like to work online? And 5 years ago, these were all new skills that I was learning because I was so caught up in the corporate channel of the next promotion and the next raise. And I got to my dream job. And then I thought, okay, what's next? And so, that really just, pushed me into looking to further afield to see what was out there.
Now, for someone that is unfamiliar with it, can you explain a little bit more about what affiliate marketing is?
Yeah, affiliate marketing is similar, is, bringing people into your world that have similar beliefs, values, etc. And it's a little bit, sometimes you could say like you're promoting a product, you're promoting a lifestyle, you're promoting a concept more than just a specific product. So the product and the vehicle was Enagic or Kangen water, and the actual tool was online. Learn how to become an online marketer, learn how to chase your dreams and your goals and things. So
awesome. So then where did real estate come into all this, and just
I've
really focus on real estate investors?
Yeah, I've always been interested in real estate. And I think I probably did the exact same thing that most investors do. They get to 4 properties and they're like, okay, what's next? How do I grow? I don't understand. How are these people doing it? But I was so focused in my corporate career that I didn't even think to sit down and Google how to become a real estate investor. It wasn't even a concept for me because I was just so focused in. And so I'd done the traditional, like I bought my first property at 29, a year later, bought a place with my husband. A couple of years later, I sat there crunching numbers for so long, bought a short-term rental in Whistler, and then it was like, okay, how do we go bigger? How are these people doing it? And it literally wasn't until I didn't actually leave my corporate job for real estate. I left it for the opportunity of entrepreneurship. And when I was sitting around my table in my bubble during COVID, and one of our friends' nannies said, oh, my dad's a real estate investor. And I was like, my ears lit up and I was like, what?
Tell me more.
Tell me more. Tell me more. So instantly, I was on the phone with him within 24 hours. I was placing money with him because he was doing private lending. I was all in right away because I was like, I know this is exactly where I want to go. And so, as soon as I kind of my eyes opened up to what was actually out there, then my whole world changed. And so I did consult with multiple different industries, everything from period underwear to high-end golf apparel to, cosmetics and aesthetics, and lots of different companies to start with. And then I saw what was happening in the real estate world is that people were just starting a business, growing incredibly quickly, but had no idea how to run a business or put business foundations in to build a sustainable business. And so that's when I thought, okay, I love real estate. I want to learn how to become an investor. I'm a business consultant. How can I marry these two? And so I started focusing in specifically on real estate investors to help them turn their businesses around or position them for growth.
Yeah. And I think that's actually one thing that I found with a lot of the real estate investors that I've connected with in the last little while is that the ones that have had struggles in a lot of cases are lacking those foundational skills so that,
Yeah.
as they grow, it's almost like too late by that time. And, a lot of them have experienced some pretty significant issues or gone out of business and things like that. And
Yeah.
in other instances, they're just scaling too fast. So again, they don't necessarily, they may have some systems in place, but they're just not lining things up appropriately and taking off a little bit more than they can chew. So I do think that that's extremely important,
100%.
especially when they do start involving other people's capital, because then you could be devastating other people. It's not just like your own
Well,
chaos.
this is
Stuff
the
like
thing,
that.
right? This is what I've seen. I've seen people go bankrupt in the last number of years. I've seen businesses grow too fast. Like
Yeah,
my motto is kind of like, come to me when you have 3 or 5 properties. Don't come to me when you have 35 properties. But by then it's often pretty deep. Like I want to get you
yeah,
started early so that you can
yeah,
actually grow sustainably. And it
yeah,
happens fast, right? You buy one property, all of a sudden you're managing 10 tenants, right?
yeah.
And then it just scales from there.
Yeah, but I think you don't know what you don't know. I mean, I had my own business for
Yeah.
18 years and I didn't get any coaching and mentorship until maybe 8 years in.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm sure there's so much that I actually don't know. And, I was just
Totally.
kind of winging it, but it was probably taking me a lot more time
Yeah.
and a lot more struggle than if I'd just gotten some feedback and input from someone that's been there, right? So I can definitely appreciate the value and all of that.
Yeah.
Now,
That
when you
high
look at your
level.
own portfolio,
Yeah.
what would you say have been some of the challenges and obstacles that you've faced as you have started to grow it?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the systems and stuff go, like I can see how it quickly gets off the rails. Like I can definitely see that. So, I'm in a position with one of our corporations where I'm like, no, we're going to pause right now. We're just going to
Yeah,
make sure that everything is dialed the exact way that I want it, right?
yeah,
And then we'll continue to move on. So that is definitely, a warning sign. And it reminds me of how easily it happens for people.
yeah,
So that, that's been a definite thing that's jumped out as well. And of course, then you have tenants, right? We've been doing short-term rentals for 10 years now. We've got the tenants are really easy most of the times and
yeah,
really not that easy sometimes. So
yeah.
those are all the wild cards
But
as
at least
well.
they're short term. So at least if they're not easy, like they continue to move along because
Yeah, you
what
replace
we
the
have is
door and
like,
they move on. And
yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's pros and cons to both. Like you have that
absolutely.
ongoing cycle of like constantly getting a place filled and stuff like that, and just
Yeah.
the ongoing, structure that kind of goes along with that. But at least again, you aren't stuck in like LTV things and can't get someone out. So
Yes, of course, because I
yeah.
mean, I have been a long-term tenant or a landlord in BC as well. And yeah, I mean, I've had golden tenants, but it's difficult when it gets difficult.
Yeah. I now in terms of lessons, and it doesn't necessarily need to be from your own experience, but even just in
Yeah.
dealing with different clients and stuff like that, what would you
Yeah.
say maybe is a common thread through all of them that you think like these are lessons that people could
Yeah.
learn a lot sooner or maybe could benefit from?
Yeah, I mean, the number when we go through those four main business buckets, the number one place we always start is accounting finance practices. And I cannot stress enough, if you guys don't know, like the three things that I kind of focus at, like what is each of your properties costing you? Where are the ones that are red flags?
Yeah.
What is your overall net worth versus your debt to equity position? Like how much do you actually owe? Do you have equity to actually pay
Yeah.
those things off? And the third one is what are your fixed and your variable costs? And those are just to run your business. Those are not property
Yeah.
management or water problems and things like that. That is literally all of your subscriptions that you have every single month. If you have a VA that is managing multiple properties, like all
Yeah.
of the fixed costs of running your actual business. Those are
Yeah.
the three areas that people really run into problems. And those, I think, is a place that most people can actually start and say, you know what, even if they're pretty good at financial practices, let's go back and make sure the flow of money is consistent, it's recorded, there's a standard operating procedure tied to it, so that you really have consistency across your whole portfolio.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I can understand that. I think that, I mean, I had different bookkeepers over the years of my business. And I think
Yeah.
one thing that none of them seem to be able to solve, and maybe you have that answer, but a lot of the times when you're working in an accounting software, you're recognizing things after it's passed, right? And even
Yeah.
for us, like you're adding your invoices in, so you could know even what money is coming in, but it's still not necessarily capturing what will eventually go out. So we
Yeah.
almost developed to something that was like outside of the software for a couple
Mhm.
of different reasons, because we had to communicate to our bookkeeper how to add things. But essentially, like if we knew that we booked an event that was worth 10,000, we had $5,000 in expenses owing a month from now, we would kind of just like add that in. So we called it like our checks payable file. So you could literally look at
Yeah.
what's in the bank account, what are receivables, what's coming out, and I could be like, I know I have 6 months of operating costs. And it's not
Yeah.
a perfect system because it doesn't consider like exactly when money is coming in and out, but as a
Yeah.
whole, within the next few months, this is what things look like. And I think maybe that's something that, it can feel like you have a lot of money coming in, but then if you're not capturing those expenses appropriately, you can find yourself in a situation where you're cash flow negative or you're insolvent or something like that, right? So
yeah. And a lot of times, like, it goes just back to a simple Excel spreadsheet where you can actually create that tracker. It can be very easy for you. I find a lot of midterm rental and short-term rentals fall into that category where they've got a booming summer season and they've got 4 months of max revenue. It looks so good, but then they haven't factored out a forecast in the next 8 months of slow
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And sometimes in some markets, there's decent shoulder seasons and then there's decent winter season stuff. But some markets, it's absolutely dead. Like here in Whistler, it is very unlikely that I will get a booking in March
yeah,
sometimes, and October. October is always dead,
yeah,
and November's really, really low too.
yeah,
So, I mean, you get spring break bookings and stuff. They're not the high level nightly rates that you would get in January,
yeah.
February and stuff.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah, you
I can
have to factor
understand
those
that.
out.
I had a short-term rental in Florida, so I
Oh
get
yeah.
kind of like, far more vacancies than I expected. Like when we bought our rental, our property managers were old-time family friends, and they're like, "Oh, this will be a booked all but 8 or 9 weeks of the year," and it was the total opposite. Like January to March, if you were lucky, April or May, and then literally it was crickets. And I really thought like October, November, December we'd get some people, and it was extremely rare. And that was even trying to promote it, and I had it on all the main kind of
Yeah.
areas where
Yeah.
you'd
All
get
the
that filled,
platforms.
but it was vacant a lot. So we were pretty much cash flow negative or even break even most years just because of that.
Yep.
So it still did well because it was bought for par and paid it off during the time that we had it and stuff like that. But if you're relying on that to cover the operating costs, then it could have been far more challenging. So definitely want
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
look
Especially
at
if you're
things
buying in
like,
a slow season and you have 8 months to wait, 8 months of
yeah,
carrying costs to wait until high season comes up. It's a
yeah,
long time to recoup those costs.
yeah, no, 100%. Now, when you look at your successes, is there anything in
Mhm.
particular that stands out as something that you're most proud of?
You know what? I'm probably most proud of my very first short-term rental that I bought, which was my third property at the time. And the reason I'm most proud of it is because I did not have a guiding light. I did not have anyone telling me what to do. I was just going out on a limb. I was like, I'm
Yeah,
going to do this Airbnb thing. I don't know how
yeah,
it's going to work. And my husband was like, do whatever you want, as long as we don't have an increase in bills. I was like, okay, I can do that. And so
yeah,
that was probably like just me going blind, but knowing, because I had run so many numbers by that point.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I can't even tell you how many hours my husband would watch TV at night for years, and I would crunch numbers on, oh, this looks good, or this looks good, or we looked into
yeah,
Washington, or like, so yeah, I think that making that first big leap of faith was, yeah, the thing that I think is most
yeah.
exciting.
That's the big thing. Like you're going to learn along the way, but the key is also
Yeah,
just getting started because you can otherwise have, analysis
analysis
paralysis and
paralysis.
and you may never get started. So I think it's
Yep.
definitely having that balance. Do you still have that property today?
I just sold it. We did really well on that property. We did sell it about 18 months too early, but of course, we then moved that money into other projects. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's all good.
yeah,
Well, on
yeah.
that note, we're just going to take a really brief break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Discover the power of smart real estate investing. We are a private REIT based in Calgary, Alberta. Our team provides expert management and support. Our focus is buy and hold multifamily real estate. Invest in tangible assets with cash or registered funds. We make investing accessible with our low minimums. We target a 12% annual return. WealthShare offers secure passive investing for long-term goals. Be a part of a growing community. Invest with WealthShare and start building your future today.
Thanks again for following along with this episode of Inspired to Invest. In addition to real estate, investing, and running my own brand experience agency for 18 years, I also published a book called The Accidental Entrepreneur in October of 2021. This is my story, and it chronicles how I turned tragedy into triumph to embrace my destiny in entrepreneurship. If you're interested in picking up a copy, you can find the link at serenahomesrealtor.com, and you can also find my link tree with all of the retailers in the details below. Thanks again for your support.
Welcome to the Wealth Club, an exclusive community dedicated to elevating your journey towards financial freedom, well-being, and success. The journey to 1% starts here. Join like-minded leaders and commit to growth for the mind, body, bankroll, and soul. Learn all the proven techniques to change your life forever with direct access to a massive team of more than 10 tried and true experts. Moreover, members enjoy priority access to investment opportunities, job openings, and partnerships within the community. For just $1 a day, members gain entry to specialized forums covering a wide spectrum of fields, discover diverse income streams,
new opportunities, collaborations, and employment. Partake in weekly Zoom calls with our team and join monthly live Q&A sessions. Compete and win cash prizes. Active members top the leaderboard for monthly rewards. Ready to get started? Join today to unlock your true potential. To sign up, go to scroll.com/The Wealth Club. Inspired to Invest is proud to support the Beyond Success program. In today's complex world, it's absolutely crucial for our youth to learn how to take charge of their financial future. We believe that every young person deserves access to accurate, practical financial information. Designed to bridge the gap, the Beyond Success program leverages a comprehensive educational bootcamp to equip young minds with essential financial literacy skills. At Beyond Success, it's not just about teaching financial literacy, it's also about fostering a foundation for a prosperous and empowered future. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Join us. Together we can build a brighter financial future for the next generations. Hey everybody, welcome back to Inspire to Invest. I've got Meghan Hubner here with me today. She is sharing her experience as a business consultant, specifically supporting real estate investors and entrepreneurs. So before the break, we were talking about her short-term rental that she sold not too long ago, and some of the challenges and lessons that a lot of her clients and investors in general tend to face when they're starting out. One thing that I always like to ask guests, that's kind of a fun question, is what's the craziest thing that you've ever experienced as a real estate investor?
The craziest thing is always going to go back to the tenants, is that, like the door getting kicked in because I think were probably had too much to drink and couldn't remember the code. Like just, you get these random you get random calls at random times. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, okay, now we need a door repair guy. Like this is bigger than a locksmith, right? And so I think those are the things, like the biggest wild card is just what the tenant throws at you. They're like, okay, I wasn't prepared for this. Or this year we had that massive cold snap, right? Well, all of a sudden the hot water tank was leaking. There was frozen pipes, and like we were in Mexico, we had a property manager, but like running around, like how many bottles of wine or chips are going to make this better for this guest?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Like things just happen sometimes. And I think at the end of the day, even, I don't know, when I think of any situation, it's always the people. And it really kind of shines an interesting light on people in general, because there's things that come up and you're just like, I never expected that. So
I didn't see that
never a dull moment. So now in terms of advice, obviously you do mentor and guide people on that side, but what would you say is some of the best advice that you've ever received?
Yeah, the best advice I had ever received was to think bigger. And originally, like I think one of your questions is around goal setting, and I find it difficult in real estate investing to really put a number on what I want to do in my career, right? Do I want to grow a $10 million portfolio? Do I want 500 doors? I don't know. Like, I don't know where I'm going, but I know that in Q3, I'm going to start investing in the United States. We're going to buy a property. We might even buy 2 in Q3. So I think the short-term manageable goals are, but that overall thought of just thinking bigger than what you think you can actually achieve, hands down, number one.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually just at an event this past weekend, and one of the speakers talked about, are you buying this to feed your ego or to feed your income? And it was kind of an interesting thing, because I find on social, especially, a lot of people get caught up. They literally put in their bios, like how many doors they have. And, I just always found that to be a little bit strange, but I feel like because of that, a lot of times people can look at that and feel intimidated, or, I'm not where I want to be. This person has 1,000 doors or 5,000 doors. And there have been people that aspire to these grandiose numbers, and then they realize the challenges and the stress that comes with that. And then they've kind of like contracted back, and then they realize it's not necessarily worth the price of like sleepless nights and the stress. And, I think you have to balance all of those things when it comes to scaling a business or a portfolio. Like, it doesn't mean you're going to stop yourself. I mean, if that's what you really, really want, but you have to ask, does it serve like all areas of your life at that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like even just from an Airbnb, right? Like I love hosting Airbnb, done it for a long time now. It's easy. I enjoy it. I enjoy the guest interactions most of the time. But other people are like, oh, Airbnb, forget it. Like I don't want anyone in my home. I don't want anyone there. Like we spent a year in Mexico. We rented our place out the entire time. People are like, how do you feel about having people in my home? I'm like, I feel great. It's paying for my entire trip. It's paying for itself. We're appreciating this year. Like, so it's just different personalities, and you really need to figure out what works for your personality.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, I know you kind of said that you weren't 100% sure what's next, but do you have an idea of what financial freedom means to you? And again, it doesn't need to necessarily be number of doors. It could be cash flow, or, working 2 days a week compared to 5? Like, have you kind of determined what that goal would look like for you?
Yeah, my goal actually is to grow our portfolio in the next couple of years for cash flowing properties right now. So the short-term goal is that cash flowing properties, because I actually want to homeschool my kids. So I want to work less, like 3 days a week would be
Yeah.
ideal. I
Yeah.
love work, but I'd like to get to 3 days a week, have our lifestyle fully sustained by our real estate portfolio,
Yeah.
and have that freedom of flexibility of traveling. We do a lot of travel as it is, but
Yeah.
we're still working in all those locations. So I would like to be working about 3 days a week. And that
Awesome.
would,
Now,
for
is
me,
there
be,
anything from the clients that you've worked with that, you would want to leave the audience with, like maybe a pearl of wisdom or just something that, you see often that you think people could really benefit from learning?
yeah, I can't stress enough, you guys, get your finances in order. It will make you feel like you have a superpower. When you understand your business, you know your numbers, you know where your portfolio is going and things,
Yeah.
and you're protecting and holding other people's money just like you would your own.
Yeah.
Those would be my key takeaways from you today. I don't want people to have the mindset of thinking, oh, I'm going to work with Meghan, that means my business is in the tank. No, I'm going to work with Meghan because I'm going to build a successful, sustainable, long-term business that's
Yeah.
preparing for growth. And
Yeah.
that's really what if you got the finance piece fixed out, fantastic. Like that's great. Make sure that your back end is order and you're using, CRMs and PMs and things like that. But
Yeah.
really hone in finances, you guys, if you do nothing else, Q3.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. Now, I always like to ask people what quote motivates or inspires them, since the
Yeah.
name of the podcast is Inspired to Invest.
Yeah. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for anyone that does want to get in touch with you to learn more about how to operate their business at the highest level possible, what's the best way for them
Yeah.
to reach you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. It's just Meghan Hubner at MEGHANHUBNER.
Perfect. So I'll include that in the show notes below. Of course, thank you for your time today. For anyone that is watching, if you've enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. You can also follow along with us on social at Inspired to Invest Podcast. And remember, when you invest in yourself, the sky's the limit. Thanks again.
Thank you to WealthShare for bringing you this episode of Inspired to Invest.
The views represented on this podcast are for general information only and does not constitute investment or other professional advice or an offering of securities. The host and guests featured on Inspired to Invest make no representations as to the performance of any particular investment. Should you decide to make an investment, you are responsible for conducting your own review and analysis. It is recommended that you obtain independent legal, accounting, and tax advice from licensed professionals.